now, preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here as always on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade JJ Williams, and we're here today to wrap up our inaugural week of musicals here on Renegades Reviews. And today's entry is Newsies, starring Christian Bale, David Moscow, Luke Edwards, Bill Pullman, Robert Duvall, Elle Keats, Ann-Margaret, Aaron Lohr, Max Casella, and Dominic Lucero. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here once again for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. As I said in the introduction, today we are wrapping up our inaugural week of musicals here on Renegades Reviews, and today's installment is Newsies. And our movie opens in the year 1899, and 17-year-old Jack Cowboy Kelly is one of many struggling newspaper hawkers in New York City, selling copies of the New York World on the streets of Manhattan. When David Jacobs and his younger brother, Les, join the Newsies, Jack notices David's intelligence and Les's marketable cuteness and self-servingly takes them under his wing. Now, unlike most of the Newsies, David and Les are not orphans or runaways. They have a home and a family, and they go to work in order to help their family get back on their feet financially, as their father was recently fired from his factory job due to an injury. When Jack is invited to the Jacobs' home for dinner, he becomes enamored with their sister, Sarah. Later on, Jack laments his isolation due to lacking a family of his own, and he fantasizes about traveling to New Mexico, as he has heard many romantic stories about the town. Now, while attempting to outdo his business rival, William Randolph Hearst, New York World publisher Joseph Pulitzer raises the prices that the Newsies must pay in order to buy the newspapers from his distribution centers. Angered by this, Jack and David galvanize the other Manhattan Newsies to go on strike. While the others spread the word to Newsies in New York's other boroughs, Jack and Les confront Pulitzer and are thrown out of his office. Meanwhile, Brian Denton, a reporter for The Sun, takes an interest in the boys' story. Jack and David take their cause to the Brooklyn Newsies, but their leader, Spot Conlon, is reluctant to join the strike. This dejects the Manhattan Newsies, but David riles them back up. As a result, they ambush the distribution center and destroy all of the newspapers. Disabled newsie, Crutchy, ends up being captured by Pulitzer's enforcers, the Delaney brothers, and is placed in an orphanage and juvenile detention center called the Refuge, which is ran by the sketchy warden Snyder, who neglects the orphans so that he can embezzle the money given to him by the city for their care. The Newsies try to ward off the strikebreakers, but the struggle turns violent and turns out to be a trap set by the Delancey brothers. Just as the Newsies are about to get arrested, Spot Conlon arrives with the Brooklyn Newsies, and the two groups unite to repel the police. Denton puts the story on the front page of The Sun. Thrilled by all this, the Newsies all rejoice at making the headline, and they imagine what it would be like to be famous. They then plan to hold a rally, and Snyder informs Pulitzer that Jack is an escapee from Refuge, giving Pulitzer legal cause to have him arrested. Jack has breakfast with Sarah on the roof of the Jacobs apartment building, and he tells her of his desire to flee to Santa Fe, and he wonders if she would miss him. Meanwhile, the Newsies from around New York gather at Meta Larkson's Bowery. Jack, David, and Spot all give speeches encouraging the Newsies to stick together and not give up on their cause. But before they all go back to their own boroughs, Meta cheers them up with a psalm. The police then break up the rally and arrest the Newsies, but Denton steps in to pay their legal fees. Snyder testifies against Jack and reveals to the others that Jack's real name is Francis Sullivan, and that his mother is deceased and his father is incarcerated. Jack is then sentenced to 4 years of rehabilitation in Refuge. Denton is reassigned to be a war correspondent and therefore can no longer report on the strike. Jack is taken to see Pulitzer, who offers to waive his sentence and pay him a salary if he will work as a strikebreaker. When Pulitzer threatens to have the other Newsies thrown into refuge, Jack complies. The boys attempt to rescue Jack, but he tells them to leave. The Newsies are then shocked and dismayed to see Jack report for work the next day. However, when the Delanceys attack the Jacobs children, Jack steps in to save them, despite knowing that he will end up breaking his deal with Pulitzer as a result. The Newsies then learn from Denton that their strike has had little effect on public opinion, since the city thrives on child labor, and Pulitzer has ordered the newspapers not to report on the strike. So, using an old printing press of Pulitzer's, they publish their own newspaper, the Newsy Banner, which they then distribute to child workers citywide. Denton then shares the paper with none other than Governor Theodore Roosevelt, exposing the mistreatment of the children at refuge. Numerous laborers joined the strike, bringing the city's entire workforce to a standstill. Jack and David then confront Pulitzer himself, who finally gives in to their demands. Roosevelt has Snyder arrested, releases the children from refuge, and thanks Jack to alerting him of the situation. He offers Jack a ride, and Jack asks to be taken to the train yard so that he can head off to Santa Fe. The Newsies, though, are all disheartened by this, but Jack returns shortly thereafter, having been convinced by Roosevelt that he still has things to accomplish in New York. As the Newsies celebrate his return, Sarah and Jack kiss, and Spot gets a ride back to Brooklyn from Roosevelt as our movie comes to its end. First and foremost, I want to say the reason I'm covering this one today is because it's a favorite of my daughter's, and today is her birthday. Happy birthday, sweetheart. You're 14 now. I still can't believe it. I hope you had a great day. And this review is for you. This is the second time I've seen this movie. And I'll admit, the first time when my daughter sat me down and asked me to watch it with her, I kind of didn't want to watch it. But she ended up selling me on it because of the cast. I mean, you got to figure the actors in this movie is a hell of a time capsule. You've got Christian Bale, who would go on to do American Psycho, and of course, Batman in the Nolan trilogy. You got David Moscow, who played Josh Baskin, the young Josh Baskin in Big, Tom Hanks's character. If you missed my review of that, I'll link it up here. You've got Max Casella, who was Doogie Howser's best friend on Doogie Howser MD. You've got Aaron Lohr, who would go on to be in the Mighty Ducks movies, the singing voice for Max Goof in the Goofy movie, and who we discussed at the beginning of the month when we discussed Rent. If you missed that review, I'll link it up here. You've got Robert Duvall and Ann-Margaret, both in adult roles. And you had Luke Edwards, who was Fred Savage's little brother in the movie The Wizard. If you missed that review, I'll link it up here. It's just a hell of a stellar cast right there for the main kids, you know, Christian Bale, David Moscow, Luke Edwards, Aaron Lohr, Max Casella. A hell of a cast. The songs were decent enough. Now, I will say there's no song in the movie that I really leave out like, oh man, that song that hits. I want to listen to that over and over again. Unfortunately, none of the songs in this movie are like that. Unlike Annie, unlike Rent, which I've already covered this week. But they were decent enough. I do believe this was Kenny Ortega's first major movie. He would go on to do the High School Musical films for Disney, along with a bunch of other stuff. So this, I believe, was his first major outing for the company, and it was fairly successful. I mean, it's on Broadway. You can see it touring the world, you know. The story in of itself is a decent story. It's very simple. My biggest gripe about this film is that I feel like it drags a lot. Again, there's a lot of places in the movie where I feel like it just goes for a little too long. And if we trimmed maybe 15 minutes of the runtime for this, I feel like it would be at a much better pace and it would keep my interest a lot easier. But that is the biggest issue that I have with the film, is its length and its pacing. Otherwise, I feel like the cast and the story is really good. Again, the songs are what they are. They're decent, but they're not, oh my God, memorable. I feel like Kenny Ortega would do better with songs once he would get down the road to things like High School Musical, because even though I have still never seen the High School Musicals, there's songs from that franchise that I know. So that just kind of tells how good those songs are as opposed to these. When it comes to my rating of Newsies, I'm going to give this one, again, 3.5 stars, much like I did with Annie. I feel like both of them are on par story-wise. I feel like both of them are on par cast performance-wise. I feel like Annie is better in the song department, and I feel like both of them are on par in the pacing-wise. Both of them had scenes that could have been shortened or cut to make the movie flow a little bit better. But overall, pretty darn good. Those of you that have seen Newsies, what do you think? Let me know. If you're watching the premiere, leave your thoughts and comments over here. If you're watching on demand later in the day, leave your thoughts and comments down here. Let's have that conversation, that discussion, that debate, that interaction that I'm always asking you guys for in the comments below. And make sure you guys tune in later this evening, right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, as well as over on the Jeff Meacham Network and across the Jeff Meacham Network multiverse of media, as we provide watch-along coverage for AEW Battle of the Belts. 8 o'clock Pacific, 11 Eastern. Noah Foster will be on the call. Not sure who else will be joining him, but make sure you tune in for that. And then tomorrow, right back here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, it'll be time for another edition of Renegades Reviews, and it's New Release Saturday. We're going to be taking a look at Matilda the Musical, starring Alicia Wire, Lashana Lynch, Emma Thompson, Stephen Graham, Andrea Riseborough, Sindhu V, Lauren Alexandra, and Carl Spencer. And then later on in the evening, back here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, and over on the Jeff Meacham Network, and across the Jeff Meacham Network multiverse of media, it'll be time once again to open the doors for the first time in 2023 for Open Mic Night. Myself, the Simple Man Noah Foster, James Hebert, possibly Jeff Meacham, and we'll see who else decides to step up to the microphone as we open up the doors for the first time in 2023 for Open Mic Night. You don't want to miss out on any of that content right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, on Renegades Reviews, on Open Mic Night, across the Jeff Meacham Network multiverse of media, pay-per-view PLE coverage. We got a watch-along for Battle of the Belts. So much good stuff in store this month. You're not going to want to miss out on any of it. So make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure that notification bell is turned on so you don't miss out anytime a video drops. right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, or anytime we go live, as is the case with Statboy Sports Bar, pay-per-view PLE coverage, open mic night, etc. Share these videos with your family, friends, loved ones, co-workers, movie fanatics, cinephiles in your life, fans of Disney Channel movies, fans of Christian Bale, fans of David Moscow, fans of Bill Pullman and Robert Duvall and Ann-Margaret, fans of Aaron Lohr or Max Casella, anybody you can think of that would enjoy this content in this video, share it with them. It's the only way we're going to boost up my visibility in YouTube's algorithms so I can eventually get monetized and make some money on my productions here. Thank you once again to everyone who joined me and tuned in today. It means more to me than you'll ever know. Once again, happy birthday, Natalie. I love you so much, and I will see you guys next time.